Live. Find out here in just a sec. See if I got to mute it.
Holly, are you still trimming these?
Off and on.
Okay.
I'm supposed to be doing it. I've just not been on top of it, but
No worries. No worries. I was just curious because I know I'm definitely guilty of talking at the beginning as I'm doing it now, making your life harder.
We are live.
Sorry.
For Triple T number 162. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
That's
February 4th, 2025. Who'd have thunk it? 2425. Oh, wow. And we're also already into the second month of 2025.
I know that went fast. Thankfully, usually January trails on.
Yeah, well, that isn't the case here. January was like, "Bloop, okay, and here we are. I want to thank everybody for joining us, especially out in YouTube land. Hi, Mom. Love you. And for the rest of you in YouTube land, yeah, I love you too, but not quite as much as my mom. For those of you in YouTube land, please do me all the YouTube favors. Click the subscribe and ring the bell and leave comments and comment on other people's comments, and then go back and comment on your own comments, because I ain't gonna lie, I like the comments. Got a website that is constantly changing at the moment. So if you saw it last week, it's different. Go play Where's Waldo and see if you can spot the difference. And I would love to have some feedback on it. And how do you find it? Simple. The TSWB.com. The tall skinny white boy.com. That is I, and I am he. And lots of information on there, and we're still adding more and more every day. I do offer a free, yes, I said free, as in no charge to you, 30-minute consultation. That's your opportunity to get a hold of me, bend my ear, talk to me for a while, figure out if there's something that I can help you with. I am privileged to be able to help people with depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD. I work with athletes from beginner all the way up to pro level. Got a class we're putting together again for restaurant servers, all the way up to 3-star Michelin. So if you know anybody in the restaurant industry, maybe your favorite restaurant, and you're like, my servers are okay, but have them get a hold of me and tell them that this isn't a slam against what they're doing now, but they don't know what they don't know. Times are changing, and we've got some new protocols, some new ways to get out there and make the customer's experience even better. Yes. What else we got? This is going to be fun. Okay, so those of you who've been around Planet TJ for a while, you know that I've been wearing a different tie every week since January, the first Triple T in January of 24. And so here we are now. And I've only wore one tie again this year. Otherwise, it has all been brand new. So this one you haven't seen yet. A classic I've had for many moons. Speaking of moons. But I looked at the remainder of my collection. Are you ready for this? I'm just going to call these honorable mentions that may not make it. So, yeah, we got this one. That was kind of nice. And then we got this one. definitely have to have a certain one for that. And we got this one, and you would think that would be all. You would be unfortunately mistaken, because I still have all of these that I have not worn. And so we've got bow ties. Back here, we've even got a cheater tie, already tied. And we got this one. I've got matching cufflinks too. We've got this one. I could only wear one Halloween tie, or else I would have to choose on that one. And we got this one. And one of my oldest ties. Yes, that's actually thin leather. Back in the day when the thin leather tie was in vogue. And we got this one. And this one. So these are all of the ties that you guys haven't seen. That's my collection. So I think I'll go back to wearing some duplicates now, because I miss
You
wearing.
made it a whole year. It's pretty impressive.
I miss wearing my poo ties. Okay, so we got that taken care of. And hey, Mike. So who's got something they'd like to share from the last time we got together 7 whole days ago? Any ahas, epiphanies, cool stories, all the above? And I just realized I didn't even put my info, the welcome and the topics in the chat. So you guys are going to be just as surprised as those people on YouTube. By the way, for those of you on YouTube, you can join us. Please do. It doesn't cost anything, and you're welcome to come on in. The way it works here is the first hour, I've got 3 topics that I do my best to make my way through. And second hour is open mic, open platform, and anybody on the call can ask a question or bring up a topic, and I let all the people on the call answer first, because I like to learn as well. And I was also going to let you guys know, this has been another day that I've been talking since basically 9:30 this morning, straight through. So it's amazing. 6 days out of the week, I don't talk very much. And Tuesday, I talk for 11 hours straight. Good thing I got some throat coat tea. And no cool things to share from the week. That's not all bad. I mean, that means everybody had a pretty relaxed, boring week, but okay, cool. Got one.
I got one. Thank you to all of you who reached out last week. I was having a tough evening the other night when I got to see all of you. So thank you to all of you who had privately messaged me. You guys you mean so much to me, and I'm so glad that I get to see you all and I get to look forward to you all and spend time with you. And in fun news, I think I told you guys a little while ago, I am actually taking Dr. Richard Nongard's writing class, and it is literally called Write a Book in 12 Weeks. And amazingly, I'm actually keeping to my own deadline, which I think is wildly exciting. And I am on chapter 9 right now. And what I did not expect, I thought it was going to be a lot more difficult to write. And it's not because it's based on my Be Free method. And I love that. And it really helps people get a much better handle on their emotions, especially when it comes to food and their body. I was not anticipating processing it and going through it and feeling it differently. That I did not see coming. So I actually messaged Dr. Richard Nonkard and I said his course should come with a little disclaimer at the bottom that says, you're going to process some stuff. So it's been very interesting since I started just a little under a month ago. So I will keep you all posted as this continues to evolve.
So this is a roundabout endorsement that if you want to work on yourself, get a hold of Nongard,
Pretty much.
write a book about whatever you're working your way through, and just spill it out on the pages, and then contact some of us agents of change to help you with whatever bubbles up.
You got it. In a nutshell.
There it is. Yes. Okay. Well, anybody else got anything they want to share before we release the squirrels and get after the topics?
Pop the topics in the chat.
Oh, well, look at there. Thank you. All right, then I guess we're into the topics, and tonight's topics for number 162 is, what is your asteroid? Level up or kryptonite, yes.
I was like, woot.
They're both on there. What is your asteroid? Level up and more work? And the first one comes from an Instagram reel that was sent to me that really got me thinking. And it all starts with a question. And the question is, if you heard on the news or whatever, the news came out that we had a monstrous asteroid hurling its way towards Earth, and it's gonna it basically a bus heading towards a flower, where the entire planet is going to unquestionably be dusted in 12 hours, what would you do? And of course, there's probably going to be the initial, chaos and trying to figure out, well, they got to be able to do something. What if we've all seen Bruce Willis go up there in space and blow up the asteroid and save the planet and gave his life, and yay, America. But if the movies aren't going to provide us with that magical antidote, and reality has to set in, first off, how soon is it going to set in? And I think part of that is going to be based on the amount of work you've done on yourself. And, there's going to be, I'd love to think that we could all get on the phone and call our loved ones for 12 hours straight. But after going through a couple of different local scares, I've learned that when that stuff happens, usually the phone grid and the internet are so immediately overflooded that phones ain't going to work. And so I'm going to ask you guys real quick before we go on with the rest of the topic. If that were the case, if you found out that the Earth is not going to exist in 12 hours, what would you do?
Other than be a hysterical mess. At the same time, it's part of me would also think like, oh good, this part's over. Let's go on to the next piece. Like there's a lot of back and forth. But I'm also somebody that believes in past lives and other lives and lives going on and time still going on after this current self. So I would go back and forth.
Great answer. Mark.
Yeah, I pearl that came out when you mentioned that. Carlos Castaneda, in one of his books, the Yaqui Sorcerer, Don Juan, he posed a similar question. If you're bending over to tie your shoes, you know that the asteroid is about to come through the window and obliterate you. The only choice you have is how well you're going to tie your shoes. Are you going to tie them impeccably, or are you going to tie them like a fool? So,
I like
interesting.
that one.
Yeah, the interesting metaphor again, you do have a choice. Asteroid's coming. How are you going to spend the time? You're going to spend the time impeccably. We're going to run around like a fool, get with your head cut off.
Yeah. Exactly. Thank you for sharing that. Holly.
First of all, I'll say I just love what both Lenora and Mark said there. Spot on. One of the things that popped into my head, it's going to depend on where you are, who you're with. In the book, The Sixth Stage of Grief, I think it's called, by David Kessler, that I've talked about a lot. He tells a story that's really interesting about how they were with their family. And I don't know if he was telling his story or somebody else's, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they got alerts on their phone of like a terrorist attack is coming, or maybe it's a hurricane. I can't remember what it was, but some disaster's coming. And they were talking about how weird it was that most of the family instantly, got up and got in their cars and started driving home as quickly as possible. But two of them just sat there and had one of the best conversations of their lives. And they just kind of sat there and talked about what's the difference between the two. And they just said, well, they were thinking about this is inevitable. Do I want to spend my last hours driving home? Either it's going to happen or it's not. And if it doesn't, we've got plenty of time ahead. And if it does, do I want to spend my last hours driving home? Or do I want to have, one of the best conversations of my life, tying up things? And so, yeah, whether it's tying your shoes or, if you're by yourself and you want to take a minute to meditate, or if you happen to be with other people, just taking time to be present and make the most of that. I think yeah. And like I said, if you're by yourself, you're by yourself. If you're not by yourself, you're not by yourself. So a whole bunch of it's going to depend on that. But I think also like what Lenora was saying too, like I happen to believe in that there's something beyond this. And so just saying, okay, prepare for what's coming next. And what's the word or the line in Harry Potter, to the organized mind, death is just the next great adventure.
Yeah. Great.
I was thinking Peter Pan when he goes, Robin Williams, phenomenal movie, and Hook. And he goes, death is the only adventure. And he goes, death would be great adventure.
Yeah. And for Mo, I know you just popped in, but the question is if you knew that the Earth, you had 12 hours before the Earth, the entire planet was going to be completely obliterated, what would you do? And you don't have to answer, but that now you know what the answer, what these answers are. And when I first heard that and got to thinking about it, honestly, the first thing that popped in my head was, okay, there's nothing I can do about it. How do I want to spend the last 12 hours of my day? I'm going to rummage through the house and find the best meal I can prepare. I'm going to go upstairs to my bar and I'm going to pull the liquor that I've been saving, and I'm going to make my wife and I the best meal that I can prepare with the best drinks that I can enjoy. And I'm going to go out in the hot tub and I'm going to sit for a while till I'm done with that. And I might take a couple of Benadryl and cuddle up and go to sleep. What else are you going to do? I don't want to spend the last 12 hours in this meat suit running around frantic. I want to pop up into the next realm or whatever and get to see everybody, all my friends, all my dogs, all everybody, and be like, so what'd you do? And like one of them point, oh, I was driving home and the roads were all packed up with cars and the asteroid hit and I was still in the car screaming. What'd you do? Well, I made a big old steak and au gratin potatoes and the wife had time to make a fresh loaf of sourdough and yeah, that's what we did. Played with the dogs, a little bit of fetch, and we just hung out. Well, how could you be so relaxed? How could you be so stressed? Your stress didn't slow the asteroid down at all. It still hit on the same minute. Mark.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how people reacted with it was 30, I think it was 36, the radio broadcast of the War of the Worlds,
Yes.
and how they, most people like running around. Some people committed suicide.
Yep.
Uh, they reacted. You know, again, some people, went to church. Again, the movie, 50s, and again, people are going to react in different ways to, the end of the world, and but yeah, I believe everything that Holly and Lenora was saying about past lives and stuff, and um, yeah, this is just one chapter.
Yep.
Time to turn the page.
That's why I say I'd be like, okay, well, got 12 hours left in this meat suit before I get to go on to the next adventure. So what's the best I can enjoy here? I'm not going to go get on the road with a bunch of frantic, psychotic people. I could try and call a few people if the phone is working, but only if they're going to be relaxed. If I call them up and they're screaming and yelling and freaking out, I'll be like, stop. You're not going to slow the meteor down at all. But this is also a metaphor for there are so many asteroids in our life that we worry about so much, and there's nothing you can do about it. And yet the amount of energy and time people invest into worrying about things that they can't control anyway. Getting angry over things that won't change, no matter how hard you scream and yell and pound your feet and yell at and shake your fist up at the sky and Lenora.
Oh, the irony of the topic you're choosing. I wrote down that I wanted to share with you all in the second hour. So now there goes my squirrels. Learning to detach and to let go of the outcome. And I have a tendency, as the former president of the People Pleasers Club, some things still resonate and not resonate in a good way as much as like light me up and don't send me into a good spiral. And when somebody else, especially when other people that are close to you are having a tough time, and part of you wants to just listen and hold space for them and do your best to understand. And this other part feels like you have to fix it. Like, oh my God, you make it better. Got to do something. And the more I try to fix it, the more frustrated I get in my inability to fix it because it's not meant for me to fix. And it is something that I'm really working to be very aware of and quite literally let it be and just figure it out. That person will figure it out. Whatever they're going through, they'll figure it out. Unless it is very clearly in my clientele wheelhouse. When it comes to friends and family, I'm really doing my best to just listen and sit on my hands and just trust that they'll figure it out and that it's not meant for me to figure out. And if it is, I will then be able to move through that versus this other chatterbox that likes to hang out going, you need to fix it now. So.
And I'm glad you brought that up, especially in this portion, because yeah, I've had so many people ask me, how can you be so relaxed? How can you be so certain? And I'm like, well, goes right back to one of the things Wayne Dyer teaches, which is you can't get sick enough to make somebody else healthy. You can't get mad enough to make somebody, or sad enough to make somebody happy. You can't get poor enough to make somebody rich. So you have to deal with your life and make it the best you can. Help others when you can. Understand when you can and when you can't. And right back to the question we're talking about is, what are some of the asteroids? What are some of the big things that are driving you nuts, that are, and I, like last time, I'm going to try and keep this as non-political as possible. But right now, you got to admit, we got a lot of people that are screaming that the sky is falling, and they are losing their mind and losing sleep and losing their health and losing a lot of friends and all the above. Four years ago, was I happy? Not really. And I look at the price of certain things. Do I like it when the price of gas goes up? No. And I can yell and scream all I want, but I haven't figured out how to change the price yet. So I pay it, I drive, and I drive accordingly and do the best I can, and still find ways to live the best that I can. Any other ahas, epiphanies, comments, input on this? I would like each of you that are hearing this, whether it's live or the recording or all the above, take a little assessment into what are you worried about that you have zero control over. What are the big bad monsters living underneath the bed? Are they real? Are you actually in danger? Can you do anything about it? Holly.
I do have a few things this is bringing up, and I'm interested to get, feedback as to how this too. One of the things that really goes with this, I just keep thinking of the prayer of serenity or the Serenity Prayer,
Yep.
which, for those who don't know, is God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Um, and I'm really focusing on that wisdom to know the difference because, if somebody said an asteroid is for sure hitting the Earth, we're all dying in 12 hours, like, assuming I can trust who's saying it, which is a big if, but that for sure is something I can't change. But I kind of look at it too. I think sometimes where our problem comes is it's a lot more of a gray area. And knowing what is it that we really can change? Are there also things in our life that we do have more power, that we do have the ability to choose this battle and actually make an impact, but we see ourselves as powerless and thinking it's something we can't change, and so we surrender a little bit too early as well.
Yep.
So, just kind of curious thoughts of how do we tell the difference between those two?
That's the school of life, I'm going to call it. And obviously, hindsight is always going to be 2020. And that leads a lot of people into the shoulda, coulda, woulda, or shoulda, instead of accepting the fact that it's back there. I have knowledge that it's back there. I know things that I coulda, shoulda, would have done, and leave that for the future, but stop living in the back with regret or all the above. There's no amount of regret that is going to change what happened back there. And so take the lessons and the knowledge and let it lead you forward better. Lenora. Mike.
Something that I found really helpful was writing down where I was that day, as in my mental state, my emotional state. Was it a tough day? And on days where I'm like, what if this doesn't work out? I do my best to notice that. And then I'll do my best to let go. And then I'll write down what happened. Was it as bad as I thought it was going to be? Or did it work out better? Because it really helps me pay attention going, why was I even worried about that anyway? Because I worry about a variety of things. And then, I'm going to be, I can't do fast enough math. I'm going to be 40 in May. And for as many times as I have beautifully worried, I'm still here. I still survived. And for the most part, pretty good, doing okay. And I think writing down truly helps me. And when I even say write down, I will write down if I slept well. I will write down if I'm noticing, oh my God, I am just needing to eat so much because something else is going on. And if I'm getting that feeling, that's my red flag of, oh, there's something you should go work on, Lenora, because that's not a good default behavior. Those are my lights on the dashboard. If I'm looking for food, it's a huge light for me. If I'm procrastinating, it's another huge light for me. Hence the shock of me actually writing a book. So the better I know myself, the better I take time to fill books and eventually toss books on where I was, the better it seems to help my awareness. Not necessarily the better the day gets. I've been awake since 2:27 this morning or 2:24 this morning, and it's 7:35 my time. I'm a little tuckered. That being said, in certain moments, I'm like, no, this is a good thing. I can be awake at this point because my brain is going. If I'm tired and I'm not acknowledging that I need to go take a nap, Lenora, because you're being very mean to yourself and to a lot of people, That's another red flag. The better I can pay attention to my thoughts and the voices going on, the better control I can gain, because I'm like, okay, what am I doing? How am I helping myself? And I don't have to play woe is me. I hate playing woe is me. It's just not my style. And that just happens to be me knowing me. If the voices are waking you up in the middle of the night with worries, again, they're messengers. I like to think of them as messengers, and I like to think of them as younger versions. Like, I make them other people. They're not me. They're a part of me. I get them out in front of me, because when it's out in front of me, I can have better control over it. Those are my thoughts on that one.
Yes. And I'm glad you brought up all of the sleep, SRUs, energy, mindset, all the above, because it does play huge into a lot of that stuff. Yes, every day is not the same. And again, you guys have seen this metaphor from me a number of times. How big is the windshield on a car? And how big is the rear view mirror? And yet so many of the worriers drive down the freeway like this. They're like, oh, I can't get there. Oh my gosh, look at what happens. Maybe if you put it up over here. But then they're driving like this. Yeah, but look at what, And sometimes you just gotta, enough. Whoa. But that's all the things that happened to me. Yes. How about if we change it to, that's all the things that you survived and learned from? Survived and hopefully learned from. There were no mistakes back there. There were just lessons. Well, yeah, but I should have, yeah, you know, if you would have known at the time, you would have. You didn't. You were missing a few things. That's why we say, if you did the best you could with the knowledge, the tools, and the energy you had available to you at the time. If you would have known, if you could have done better, you would have. That's why you're lamenting here, because now you're like, this is what I should have done. Okay, next time the scenario happens just like that, you got the solution. Stop worrying. Well, yeah, but what if, well, yeah, what if? What if it never happens again, ever? What if all the energy that you've invested into all of the scenarios that could possibly go wrong from your experience in the past never ever happen again? What if you jump out of a building, the 20th story of a building, because the asteroid is definitely heading this way and we're all going to die? Oops, it hit our magnetic field and bounced off. Silly us. Sorry. And you worried the whole time about it. You'd be looking at people like me going, you suck. What'd you do? I had a really good day. And you knew you were going to die? I'm going to die anyway. This meat suit has an expiration date on it. I don't know what it is, but pretty sure it has one. And so, yeah. I took what I had left and made the best of it.
And the reality, TJ,
Yeah.
with all that, is we went through this not that long ago with COVID.
Yes,
That was going to be the end of the world. And You did things change. Yeah, people had to adjust. People had to change. Life was a little bit different, but at the end of the day, we come out on the other side. Whether life looked the same or it didn't, we still survive.
Bing. Thanks, Mo. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yes, absolutely. And people go through stuff all the time. And here's another part that I'm going to throw in here. One of my squirrels just delivered this to me. You have no idea how many life-threatening close calls that didn't happen. For all you know, you almost died 30 times last year. Like, dude, that much. And your guardian angel's like, man, dude, seriously. Well, thank God you didn't know about it, because they were all close calls. You could have worried about it. And so many people live tiny lives because they're so afraid of the what ifs. One of my favorite quotes, I worried about 100 things that could go wrong, 99 of which never did. And the one that did was nothing. Yeah, wasted all that.
How's that a whole lot different than Final Destination? You know, if your number and your ticket is up, you might avoid this one, but you're not going to avoid the next one because your ticket's up, right?
Yeah.
And if it's not, then you'll just keep going.
And one of my squirrels just jumped on that metaphor. If you don't know what the final destination is, maybe you want to take the best route possible so that you can enjoy the drive in case it ends early. Rather than driving across the desert of worry and fear and, oh my gosh. But on the other side is paradise. I'd rather just drive through the pretty parts all the way along. Yeah, but in the pretty parts, there's like bridges that sometimes fall. And there's hills, and somebody might come up on the other side, on the wrong side, and crash into you and be like, well, then I would die in the pretty part. Lenora.
Elijah had shared with me once, and Mike just so beautifully put in the chat here that he had wasted tons of time worrying, and so have I. Totally. And Elijah had once said to me, when we talk about being in the feeling of habit and living in the space that we want to be living in, as in, if we're talking about manifesting and that experience that we want to manifest. And he said, you know, people sit down first thing in the morning and they have that gratitude and they have that moment. And it's like putting your shoes on. And then you go about your day without that. And it's like you took your shoes off. And that's how I think of worry. And if I'm living in a clear headspace, and it's not like, again, guys, I thought this was going to be like this beautiful trajectory of just rainbows and sunshine and shit. It's not. But it is the ongoing awareness of, where are my thoughts? Where's my head? What am I focused on? Where's my intent? Where's my intention? Where's my attention? Are my shoes on or are my shoes off? Am I in that space of where I want to be? Am I in that space of talking kindly to myself and talking kindly to others and taking care of myself to the best of my ability? Or am I in the space where my shoes are off and I might be in a spiral or in a cycle or processing something? I am cranky and nobody wants to come near me. Either way, totally fine. We're human. No big deal. Which do I have a preference of? I have a preference of having my shoes on. When my shoes are off, I like to pay attention so that I can figure out a way to get my shoes back on. I don't know if that fits for anybody, but it has stuck with me for months since he has told me that.
Holly.
For some reason, thought TJ was going to say first, but you know what? One of the things that keeps coming into my mind in this conversation is I call it the, you know, the Apollo thing, the I had a word for it. I can't remember what it is, but it's the Apollo something. But if you think about Apollo 1, Apollo 11, and Apollo 13, every time I hear all three of those stories, I feel like there's meaning. There was something that was meant to be done. The universe had a plan for all three of those stories, and yet they're so different. And so sometimes I ask myself, am I in an Apollo 1 version of my life where something difficult's going to happen? For those who don't know, Apollo 1 is the fire that happened where the astronauts died. Am I in that phase of my life? Is the universe trying to teach me something? I think that, as much of a tragedy as that is, and I'm not diminishing that at all, sometimes we're meant to go through learning experiences. We're meant to go through something difficult for whatever reason. And I do believe the universe has a positive reason for that, even if in the moment it's hard. Or are we in an Apollo 11 situation where, yes, there were a lot of close calls. TJ was talking about how many close calls are you having that you don't even know that you're having. But, people tend to see that mission as a success from beginning to end. There was no big moment of crisis. Or are you in an Apollo 13 moment of your life where you're going to have some really scary things happen, but you're going to have this miraculous recovery and everything's going to turn out even better than you could ever have imagined in ways that seem almost impossible. And I think all three phases of our lives, when it's going well, when it's going to go poor, it's going to be hard, but there's a reason for it, or it seems like something's going wrong, but you're going to find a miraculous way out of it. I think all three phases of our lives have purpose.
Yes. Absolutely. And what came up with both you ladies talking, when I drill down to people, what's the worst case scenario? What's the worst thing that could happen? What's the worst thing? What do they normally say? Well, I could die. I said, then the game is over. And do you know you're dead? If you're not afraid of dying, then that's not even the worst case scenario. That kind of changes the field. Now you're just playing until sunset. Lenora.
So for me, the worst case scenario, hilariously, was never death. I got that one. Okay, fine. That one processes. I'll be dead. Yeah, okay. Shit happens. For me, shame and being criticized and belittled and put down was probably like what most people would consider their death. That was death to me. And even certain things that I'll notice that come up. And this is another reason why I'm extraordinarily careful with who I share things with. I once read on TJ, you had a post, and I think it was it Guada or Michelle that posted it, and it said, "Be careful what rooms you vent to, because all vents don't go to the same room or don't go to the same place." And I was just like, "Oh my gosh, that is such a phenomenal one." So this is also, whether it's venting or talking, this is why I don't share a lot with other people. It's because I don't want them trying to shame me. I don't want them trying to criticize me. I don't want them trying to fix what they think needs to be fixed in my head, because this is my world and I need to fix whatever is going on and what's ever coming up for me. I don't need you putting your stuff on me. So that is something else that I've also done my very best to live by. And there was a point and I lost the point, but those are my thoughts on it and about the venting of the room.
But that proves another thing. The programming that we get put on our hard drive at certain points in our life will dictate how we handle certain things like this. And if you're out there and you're hearing this and you're like, ooh, yeah, reach out to any of us or somebody. Life is too short to be worried about whether or not you're going to make it across the desert Stop driving across the desert. Find a better place to drive. Lenora,
Apparently, we uncorked my mouth tonight, and I can't shut up.
that's okay.
When reaching out to other people, so here's why I absolutely love it. They have distance, they have perspective, and they're also a lot calmer. And it's not that they're on your team and they're pointing a finger at somebody else and going, they need to change. It's not like that at all. It's not like calling up somebody and venting to them like a friend. When you work with a practitioner, when you work with a coach or a therapist or whatever you want, the beauty of it is that they come to the table with you looking at your stuff. They're not looking at you. They're looking at your stuff. And that is something that massively changed my perspective, because the entire time, my entire perception of coaching and of therapy and of the work that we do and work that I absolutely love to do now, my entire life, the entire perception was they were looking at me, judging me, criticizing me, pointing me, shaming me. And that was a reason that I had resisted for so long talking to somebody about the things that were going on in my life. And I will still say, among the many decisions I have made in my life, of the top 3, working with professionals has been of the top 3 best decisions that I've ever made in my life.
That's why coaches have coaches.
That is true. It's also why therapists have therapists too.
Therapists have therapists.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we have 8 minis left. No, when I was thinking about this earlier today, I was like, this is going to be one of those nights where I highly doubt I'm going to fit all 3 of these in, because the second one, level up, is as big as the one we're still talking about. So, any other input on what's your asteroid? You're welcome to. We can. This is a great discussion. So if you guys got any other ahas, epiphanies, comments, share them now, or I'm going to bounce right over level up. I'll save that for next week, and we'll jump into more work, if that's okay with you guys. Well, 7 minutes, more work. And this one is from again, I know you're shocked, one of the clients I was working with who is doing okay financially. They're self-employed and just informed that another company is going to start referring business over to them instead of one of their competitors, which sounds like a really good idea, right? You should be excited. But I noticed they had a little hesitancy in the story. They had a little concerning tone in their voice as they told the story. And so I dug into that and found out that even though they are excited about the additional income stream, they weren't overly excited about the additional potential for workload. Because right now they've got that, one of the catchphrases of the latest, 10 years, whatever, they've got that life-work balance. And they've got a pretty sweet life. They would love to have a little more income. And so we started discussing what are some of the other options for income streams, which is one of the journals that I have my clients work on. To understand that a 9 to 5, a job, jump out of bed, a just over broke, that's great if that's what you're looking for. And then there's the self-employed entrepreneur, and the nice thing about that is you get to work whatever 18 hours a day you want before you go home and work on stuff. And it's figuring out, especially in this day and age with the internet and dumb phones and now AI and all the above, there are so many options for income streams. And you have to ask yourself, what am I really looking for? Am I looking for more work, or am I looking for more income? One book that I reference for this a lot is The 4-Hour Work Week, which it's funny when a lot of people, even some people that bought the book, I can tell the ones that bought the book to sit on the shelf to say they bought the book. I own the book. I'm like, okay, what's your favorite talk out of it? And what are you trying to achieve out of it? And have you done any market analysis on how much you can raise your prices? And when they're like, what way? I know that they maybe glossed over the book, or they just got it and set it on the shelf. And to boil it down to a real quick, in the last 3 minutes we have left, you can work 40 hours a week for $10 an hour, or you can work 10 hours a week for $400 an hour. It's the same amount of money. And that doesn't mean that you are going to be working 4 hours a week. But if you work 4 hours a week at $400 an hour, you've freed up 36 hours to do something else. So it's the understanding that a lot of people don't understand how to position themselves or continually work on improving their marketability. What is your value to the market? Jim Rohn always said you can work 9 to 5 on your job and 5 to 9 on your life. And I know I said that wrong. Somebody out there is researching it. Answer will be coming up pretty soon. 9 to 5 makes a living, 5 to 9 makes a fortune. Until your 5 to 9 takes over your 9 to 5. But also understanding that most wealthy people have multiple streams of income. And Warren Buffett was famously quoted as saying, if you don't learn how to make money while you're sleeping, you will work your entire life. And that man figured it out big time. He is extremely good at knowing how to make money while he's sleeping. And that brings us to the top of the hour. Any ahas, epiphanies, input, comments on more work? More work? Lenora.
At least for me, I found the greatest benefit to be when I started having conversations with people versus just watching it passively online. And it's hysterical that I'm actually saying that, because what I teach, especially when it comes to helping kids speak, I tell parents all the time, don't leave them in front of the TV. It's passive. They're not engaged. They're not having a back and forth. Yes, they're getting language and they're understanding something, but it's not an engagement. It's completely different. And for as much time as I spent on YouTube in my entire life, things didn't start to really shift until I started to get in conversations with people. When I met you fantastic people from Identity by Design, when I started then having one-to-one conversations with other people, asking them about their life, what were they doing? And the reason it changed for me is because I was able to see that they were doing it and they were having an actual conversation with me, and they weren't belittling me. They weren't criticizing me. They were genuinely curious. And it was a constant path forward of, what do you notice now? What are they doing? And what can you learn from them? What's that great piece of advice that they just gave you, that golden nugget? And the more conversations you have with people, the more you will see your finances grow.
Yes.
It's not a hilarious, I think David Snyder says it a lot, like, you see people on message boards. It's there, but it's not here. You have to get in your body and have conversations with people and see what they're doing. And then you'll see it's not as magical and mystical as they make it seem.
Well said. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it's right in line with the phrase, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you spend time with 5 drunks, you're the 6th. If you spend time with 5 partiers, you're the 6th. If you spend time with 5 lazy people, you're the 6th. If you spend time with 5 millionaires, eventually you learn the conversation, you learn the verbiage, you learn the ideas, and chances are you'll be the 6th. I've been blessed to hang out with some very financially affluent people. The conversation is different. Lenora. Mike.
I'm going to put this out there for anybody. So there's a variety of people in my life, and of the variety of people, there is also a very clear difference between people who are optimistic, people who are positive, people who are growth minded, and people who are fixed minded, and people who are looking at something and asking it to change, but not really allowing it to change, and kind of just looking at it. So what I found very helpful, especially when it comes to finances, especially when it comes to your dreams, what matters to you, what's important to you, know that you can share that. You can share that, all of us, because we love to hear that, but write it down and share it with your pen and paper. Don't necessarily share it with people who are criticizing or judging or kind of in a rough state, and don't see what you see, because it can get in your head. This is another reason why I'm careful with who I share stuff with, because there are times where you're going to have to walk away and say, and just, they're going to have their thoughts and you want to share something with them. And it's going to be okay that you're not going to share it with them because they're not in that space to be excited with you. They're not in that space to see what you see in the unseen. And that I think is something wildly important, is because I used to think of it as, they don't believe in me. They don't think I can do something like this. They don't, you know, have faith in me. And I would get upset. Oh, still do. And I have to, I have to detach, and I have to literally acknowledge how I feel about it and say, you know what, they're just not in that space. They literally can't. And it's not that they don't want to. It's not that they don't love me, and it's not that they don't believe in me. It's that they literally don't have the ability to focus in the way that I might have the ability to focus in. And same thing, they might see something and I can't see it. I can't wrap my head around it. And it's not meant to be a collaboration. What is it? There's something on your motivational Monday wall. What was it? It was given to you. It was between you and God. It wasn't a conference call. That's why other people weren't invited to it. And I thought that was so great. So whatever you're wanting to do, whatever you're drawn to do, whatever you're passionate about, and you're like, hey, I might be 40 pounds overweight, but I still want to climb a mountain, but I'm not going to tell anybody because I don't want them to doubt me. It's not between them and I don't need them. I'm not going to tell anybody. Go out and do it. If you want to start your business, if you want to try something, just the fun of trying it, try it. Don't wait for other people to give you the approval of it. Celebrate with people who can see the unseen. Let that be a part of your life. Especially, and I know there are plenty of people, especially some people on this call, they even when doctors are telling them X, Y, and Z, they're going, no, you don't know what I know. You don't know what I know. And you're not listening to it. And you focus in on what you want to focus in on. Their word is not gospel. They're in their own world. Notice where you can quite literally protect yourself and what's important to you.
Absolutely.
That resonated.
And for those of you that are wondering, yes, we're in the second hour, and this will happen as well. If we've got a good conversation going on, we'll just consider this. Second hour is open mic, open platform. And if you guys want to keep on with this, you are absolutely welcome to. Does anybody have any other input, ahas, epiphanies, questions that they want to add to this? Because we can keep this going. I'm enjoying this. If not, oh, there's Holly. Yes.
I'll say a couple things. First of all, my Excel teacher back in the day, one of the things he would always say is, in life, you will always have the choice to work harder or work smarter. And that just, his voice is always in my head. And I ask myself, is there any way that I can work smarter rather than working harder? I think that's just a good question to always ask yourself. And then, oh gosh, there was a second thing and now my mind just blanked. If I think of it, I might chime in if it was important enough. We'll see.
Squirrel. But yes, people that know me or hang around me know that I've been a part of the Work Smarter, Not Harder Club for quite a while. Holly.
Sorry, I just remembered what it was. The other thing I was going to say too is learn to honor your own money process. Because one of the things I learned is I start trying to download what works for other people. And it's amazing how many times it doesn't work for me. And that's okay. It's okay to, and by the way, I don't regret experimenting with it. It never hurts to try something new. You don't know until you try it if it works for you. But if you have done the experiment and I think it kind of goes to what TJ says about food, you might want to try it 3 different times because you never know what aspects were contributing that you didn't put in, but if you've given it a good shot and you can tell it doesn't work for you, you can admire a mentor and still recognize that their approach isn't the same approach that works best for you.
Yes. Absolutely. Lenora.
I love the idea of it's a buffet. Try it. If it works for you, great. Have some more of it. Take what resonates, take what feels good to you, take what tastes good to you, and whatever doesn't, it's okay. If you don't like burnt fish, that's okay. There are plenty of people that love burnt fish or burnt mac and cheese. It's okay. Find what works for you. And I put in also, even as Holly was talking, I was still on another train of thought, and that's where resiliency comes in. Recognizing that even them not knowing or other people not being able to see what you can see and not being able to be aware of it, it's okay. Building that resiliency that says, I can still trust in myself. I can still move forward.
Absolutely. Well said, Mark. Life's a buffet. And I'm going to jump on the life's a buffet thing. Understand, there are some people that will go to the biggest buffet with every single thing there, and they will only eat a cheese sandwich. That's okay. I like a cheese sandwich. But when you ask them why they don't try something else, listen closely to their response. And if you tell them that you're going to go try other things, again, listen closely to the response. If they're happy for you and encourage you to go try something else that they're too afraid or they're whatever, that's okay. But if they're going to be like, oh yeah, well, you're going to the seafood thing, that stuff will kill you. That's why I stay with the cheese sandwich. I heard people die from that. Yeah, Well, you don't need that. Hey, why don't you just enjoy your cheese sandwich? There are plenty of people that didn't die on the seafood buffet. So, back at it. Anybody else got anything you want to share on that? Or do we have another topic or question that... Mark?
Yeah, on that buffet thing, when we were filling my wife's bucket list, we went to Italy. I decided I was going to check my taste buds at custom, and for the 3 weeks we were there, I tried stuff. I have no idea what it was. I I still don't know what a prawn is. So, but I ate it, and because like I said, but I had such a great time trying all these new things with these new tastes, and again, if you don't, just put your preferences aside once in a while, how can you enjoy the entire buffet?
Yes. Yeah. For as much as a foodie as I am, have I had things that I was like, yeah, tried them 3 times. I'm good. Don't need to try that anymore. Yes, I have. But thankfully, I chose at a very young age that I was going to try everything at least 3 times because there are bad cooks and bad ingredients. And one that just came to mind that I always wanted to try because I'm a child who grew up in the 70s and the 80s and always wondered what a Vegemite sandwich was. So when I was in Aussie land, I got me some Vegemite because the hotel had it in the little packets. And if you don't preconceive what it tastes like, and you don't dive into it deep, It is great. I love cooking with Vegemite. It is it's very healthy. It to me, it's like a cross between peanut butter and soy sauce. Yes, I saw that face, Lenora. You're like, eh.
No matter how many times I've heard it described that way, it's still gross.
Yes,
If
but
you're like molasses, I could buy that. Peanut butter molasses, I could buy that. Soy sauce is just not a vinegar person.
well, but are there any foods that you like that have soy sauce in them?
No.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Well, I could make something with soy sauce in it that you would like, but that's okay. But
Next triple T.
that was the thing where when I brought it home, because I brought a bunch home, I was smart enough to introduce it to my wife with the right mindset. And I prepared her for it. I said exactly what I told her. It's like a cross between peanut butter and soy sauce. And so if you put some on a cracker, don't expect it to be sweet or savory or anything like that. And there were a few people that were at the training in Australia. David was one of them, who I watched smear it on graciously on an English muffin and take a monstrous bite. And luckily, I didn't judge my experience by his reaction because he was caught off guard. It's kind of like when you're expecting water and you get vodka. That was pretty much his reaction. And he didn't eat the rest of the English muffin. So, any other inputs, ahas, or do we have another question or topic? Come on, you guys. Yes. Who's got a question? Time's a ticking. Ticky, ticky. I swear I'm going to get the audio for doo 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 doo. Holly.
I do have something I've been pondering, get people's opinion on this. So I've been thinking a lot about charity, and when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate, the appropriate way to do it, when it is appropriate. So I'll tell you the three competing stories that keep going through my mind. And I'm just kind of interested in how each of you use discernment to recognize when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate, and even when it is appropriate, what's the appropriate way to approach it. So a couple of them are dreams. I think I've told you the dreams before. So one of them is my dream that I had of the old lady who came into the gym and decided to try to do everybody's workout for them, to try to help them out. But I also have another weird dream. My dreams like to just abstract concepts and try to understand concepts, I think. But anyway, I was just observing in the dream. I wasn't even a participant, which is unusual, but I was watching basically a truck driver driving down the road, and he saw somebody at the side of the road, on the freeway kind of thing, screaming, and gets him to pull over. And she says, basically, I'm a 14-year-old girl. I've been, kidnapped in this kidnapper's house in his basement, locked up, chained up for, the last 5 years. And I've just escaped. Is there any way you could give me a ride to the police department? Really bizarre dream. But, and the driver says, I'd love to, but I actually believe that people should take ownership of their own lives. If you would just be responsible and go out and get a job, you could buy your own car, pay for your own gas. You need to learn to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I'm not going to help you go out and help yourself. and he drives off. So like I said, kind of a weird dream, but one that stuck with me. And then the third thing that comes up to my mind is I was hearing about a charity in a third world country that was it was meant to help orphans. And what I heard is that the orphanage was getting paid basically per person that they could get. And so they had actually started going out and doing things like bribing families to abandon their kids so they could have more orphans, or even kidnapping kids so that they could make more money off of people who were. So all these people who were investing and seeing how many kids needed help were actually hurting the problem and making it worse because they were encouraging the separation of families. So anyway, I know those are kind of like three really random combinations of things, but I'm just kind of curious, how do all of you make sure that A, you're not that old lady that's trying to do somebody else's workout for them and not really helping. B, that you're not, helping a situation that really needs help, but your help is actually making it worse, like the orphanage situation. Or C, not being the truck driver that's coming across somebody who really genuinely does need help and really can't help them, with a little bit of help, that ride to the police station, they might be able to completely turn their life around. But in that moment, they're so vulnerable, they really can't help themselves and they really do need the help. How do we avoid not being the truck driver that just dismisses their problems and drives on? So anyway, thoughts?
Wow. Okay. First, the disclaimer for those of you that came in late, these were dreams. I don't want somebody getting all revved up trying to research, find out what town and who it was and who needs to be prosecuted. So who's got something for Holly? Lenora.
For this, I find it very interesting. And, I once had somebody tell me, because I had a similar question and it wasn't about dreams, but it was still about that. And their response was that they quite literally don't look at it, as in they don't pay attention to it because they don't want to feed it. They don't want that vibration. They don't want that frequency. And that was quite surprising for me. Because I see what they were saying, but it just didn't quite sit with me. I also, especially when it comes to giving and wanting to help and wanting to support, I do my best to acknowledge the balance. There was a very strong story in the Catholic Church that I grew up in, and it went it resonated or it impacted me so much to the extreme that it was becoming a problem in my life. So I think there's something to be said about finding balance and knowing where you want to contribute, whether it's contribute your time, contribute your money, contribute your other investments, whatever that might be. But also be careful in what you're focused on and do your best to find the balance. Hopefully that resonated.
Well said. Mark.
Yeah, the dreams seem to have, at least symbolically, again, it could be, you're in the helping profession. Do you want to do like the old lady, you want to do everything for everything, carry them across the finish line? Or in the second dream that you mentioned, do we stand back and, keep a therapeutic distance and, just encourage, try to empower people without, even though, in the dream, taking just a little bit of compassion to give the girl a ride to the police station. Sometimes we want to keep that therapeutic distance. And then, the third one with the charity, again, taking action appropriately, seeing injustice that can't be tolerated to, maybe take action and, and to put our efforts towards, I don't know, towards resolving the problem or to bring attention to the problem rather than, solving the problem, but invest in other people, basically, I guess, from the, and all three dreams seem to be, how much investment are you willing to, um, put into your work, put into your, um, put into your clients, and, and then, again, and, aware of the, those people want to, take advantage of others, I guess. Seems to have a theme.
Yep. Fran.
Well, first of all, you need to be able to eat Vegemite before you can become an Australian. That's just one thing. And if you like anchovies, Vegemite is easy, but it is salty. And it is an acquired taste, just like kimchi is an acquired taste. Not
Yep.
everybody loves it. So, like TJ said, you've got to have an open mind. But Holly, your unconscious mind is so clever, giving you those amazing dreams, even if they weren't comfortable, because these are the people, it epitomizes the sort of people we bump up against every day. And we come in trying to make a difference in the world, certainly in this group. And we do come up against these people and trying to have compassion for them, understanding for them, and navigating them. It's tough because all of these situations accentuate what we meet every day. So what was my point? I can't remember. I haven't had my Vegemite yet. Yeah, I think that was mainly it, that it epitomizes people we come up against. And we might start off with a great idea, but it kind of gets distorted and polluted along the way. Or we come up with asking for help, and people, we really need help because we wouldn't ask unless we were really desperate. And people don't get it. So I think there's a lot of that in Holly's dreams. I'll probably come back for a second bite at this. Thanks.
Lenora.
I think sometimes it's also there as a way to show us, because there are plenty of people that manipulate other people. I don't know if you, this is a bit before cell phones, but there would be people who would call up elderly people and say, I'm your long lost grandson, I'm your long lost so-and-so, can you send me money? And I think it's a good thing to have that awareness and pay attention to, is my kindness and the fact that we can be so kind and we can be so empathetic, it can also be a danger. And it's something we do have to carefully wield.
Exactly.
Absolutely, Lenora. And your comments about being careful who you unload to, who you share with. There are people out there that will use it, including your own family sometimes. So, the topics have been so fantastic to date. And the meteor one, woo, you pressed all my buttons. Thank you.
I definitely.
Go ahead.
Go.
Go ahead.
Just a friend, I'll have to send you the two things about venting. And I think that was a huge misconception. Oh my God, I feel like I'm just breaking all these these myths. I don't know even how to start it. Like, you might think that, people who coach and who teach and who share all that we do. Have it all together. Later, no one have a problem in the world.
No. Nope.
I literally couldn't shake my head fast enough. So I'm really hoping Mike saw that visual because it was hysterical. If not, Mike, you got to go back and rewind. Huge misconception. But what I do think it is, and the other misconception is that we are 24/7 super happy, and that 24/7 we're surrounded by people who are also super happy. And it is also, it's a choice. Are my shoes on today? Am I wanting? How am I wanting to live? And please don't misunderstand me. I get in a funk. I don't know. And if you don't believe me, rewind to last week's episode because I was not a happy camper. And you can see it all over my face. And it's just a matter of being willing to say, okay, I'm in this shit right now. This sucks. It doesn't mean my whole life sucks. It doesn't mean that I'm starting back at square one. It just means I'm having a tough moment and I don't like it. And hang on, it'll be over soon. And I can then wake up in a better mood or have something else. See, Mark even put in the chat, we know, because he's totally right, because plenty of people messaged me going, oh, you got a cloud over you, girl. It's true. Big misconception. It's simply a choice that's the truth. It's a choice. Every day you wake up and you say, I want to be a happier version. I'm living in here. I want to find ways to enjoy my day. To call this one MythBusters.
And same with me. The people that know me, even my wife knows that everybody handles their off days different. Some people get angry. Some people have to talk to people. Some people have to yell at people. I'm the one, thank God I got a shop. I'll get quiet. My wife knows if I'm like, yes, yep, and I've got that look on my face, she's not going to hear from me for a while. And it doesn't mean it's something with her. It just means I process my stuff by going to the shop, fixing something, and thinking through. And so whatever your process is, that's fine as long as it serves you. If you need some help, some support, if you need to learn different processes to help you through it, that's when you can reach out to any of us. And I'm going to let Mark and Fran figure out who gets to go first.
I just had a couple of quick things. First of all, one of my pet phrases is everybody's crazy. Some of us are better at hiding it than others. It's true. What you said triggered another squirrel that, it ran away. Wait a minute. No, it's not coming back. I'll jump back in. Go ahead, Fran.
Squirrel.
Okay, well, I totally agree that happiness is a choice and it's also a habit.
Yes.
So getting into a good habit of being happy is great. However, even the happiest people have dark nights of the soul, days, nights, whatever, and they are markers of transitions. So actually trying to learn to welcome those is a different way of looking at it. That if you're feeling really uncomfortable and nothing fits anymore, it's a transition. Transitions are uncomfortable. Butterflies go through a pretty uncomfortable transition before they become butterflies. In childbirth, there's a place between having the contractions starting and the uterus starting to shorten when nothing appears to be happening. But it's all quiet not quiet on the outside. Nothing is happening on the outside, but there's a lot of changes happening on the inside, just like in the chrysalis and the butterfly. And the you that used to be is kind of turning to mush at that time, before it reconforms and evolves. So what comes out is usually better, but being able to recognize a dark night told from the inside when you're actually going through it is really, really hard. You just think the whole world's fallen on your head. That's what it feels like. You feel like if you are a believer in source or God, that God has abandoned you and you are so alone. There is nothing worthwhile. And trying to just hold strong while the quiet mush reconfigures inside takes courage and takes somebody who has hopefully gone through it and is willing to give you the hope that yes, you will come out of this stronger, more beautiful. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Have faith. This is a good thing and it's only temporary. Thanks.
And I'm so glad you brought up the reference to butterflies. A lot of people don't understand that you can't help the butterfly out of the chrysalis because in the struggle to get out of it, it forces the blood into the wings, which makes them develop. When you open the chrysalis too early, their wings don't develop and they die. And when you were saying that, to me it was like the people that are suffering but have enablers, not helpers, but enablers, not therapists, but enablers. And the enablers keep pulling the chrysalis off of the butterfly and wonder why it doesn't get any better. So another way to look at it. Mark.
Quick story. I was starting my master's program. I took a course, and the teacher put a definition of objectification on the board, and it was like 25-word definition. And then assured us it wasn't going to be on the final. And of course, being me, you're not going to interested in it? I'm going to memorize, and it was on the final. But it's objectification is an unfreezing that goes on at certain times of our life where everything is in flux. Usually it's, if transition to, the Piaget, the formal operational thinking, growing out of your concrete operational thinking, there's an unfreezing. It's where everything is in flux for a while. Building on what Fran said, and after a while, it refreezes and then, like a snowflake unfreezes, and then when it refreezes, it's a completely different snowflake. So that just came to me. But that's what objectification is an unfreezing that goes on. And then I was the only one that got that one right in the final. So, but yeah, it's an unfreezing that we, have to go through from time to time where everything is in flux. Then when it refreezes, you're as you were going to mention it, when we level up.
Yes. Awesome. Anything else, or is it time for another question, another topic?
I kind of got something on the earlier topic of working smart. Well, what are you going to do with the time that's working smart? Because I find that I just take on more and more and more because I can, because I'm capable, and I sometimes get buried under it. If it only takes one straw and the whole lot goes out of whack. So sometimes working smart, I'm then faced with this space to fill, and I tend to fill it, and that's maybe not my best practice. Has anybody got any wisdom for me on using that extra time more valuably, more productively? Because I just fill it. I fill it often with stuff that I love doing, but it's full.
Lenora.
Oh, I didn't know how I wanted to go. I love that you said that, Fran. One of the first things that came to mind, and by all means, you're welcome to chime in at any point. How are you with saying no? And also, might it be an invitation to explore being present in the moment, whether it's going out for a walk? I know it's gorgeous where you are. Really the term self-care is just kind of firing in my brain. So those were the two things that popped up for me.
Sorry, just to pop in, it's often one of these things that, oh, could you just do this tiny little job for me? And yes, it's a tiny little job on its own, but I've just got so many of these tiny little jobs, and everybody asks for just this little bit, just this little bit, and this little bit list is so overwhelming.
How do you do saying no though, and being
How
like,
can I say no? Could you just do this tiny thing for me? I find it really hard to say no to, a tiny request. Somebody really needs something doing. I know I can do it if I've got to, but yeah, when it's just a small thing, to refuse it seems really mean. I may as well just do it because it takes less time to do it than to say no.
in the refusing of it, especially when somebody asks you, and even in that moment, are there any other voices going on, or is there a voice after you take it on?
I have Superwoman come out. I can do.
You are a superwoman. You're phenomenal. I love you to pieces, and I tell you all week long. But that's where it's like, is it? Because part of it, and I can feel it, because part of me is like, oh, yay, I'm needed, and the other part of me is like, why did I say yes? Like there's a conflict.
Yep. Holly.
Ooh, so many things I'm thinking of right now. And this is definitely a topic I needed, so thank you for bringing it up. So the first thing that came to my mind, I've probably shared this a million times, but the number one thing I learned from Dean Graziosi is that our success is primarily defined, a lot of us think it's defined by what we do, but he says, actually, the number one thing that will contribute to your success for most of us are the things that we choose not to do.
There.
The first thing he does is he goes through and he says, okay, I'm self-employed. What if I were to work with one more client today and use that money to pay somebody to clean my house, or use that money to go to eat out so I don't have to do the dishes and prepare the meal? Or, instead of taking that as that's me being lazy, no, that's me being strategic. That's me taking advantage. So there's also this concept of opportunity cost. A lot of times we look at something and say, and for those who don't know, opportunity cost is, what am I giving up to do this?
There.
What's basically, the thing, because a lot of times we look at it and say, well, it's a valuable thing to do, or it's a good thing to do. But the question is, so there's this talk I heard once, it's called Good, Better, Best. And he was talking about the catalog of you'd get things and the quality was good, but the quality that was better, and then you had the quality that was best. Are you sacrificing best for good? And so a lot of us, we're like, oh, well, yeah, I could probably squeeze that in. It's not that much to ask. But it adds up. And it's important to learn how to say no. And sometimes it's important to say no just to practice saying no. So another question we have to ask ourselves, there's this concept of if you give a gift grudgingly, count it as if you didn't give the gift at all. And so we have to ask ourselves, what is my motivation for giving this gift? Is it because I just want to be a people pleaser? Is it because I don't want to be rejected? Is it because I want to look good? Am I sacrificing my health and my happiness? And am I getting stressed all because I care more about other people's goals than I care about my own golden path? And am I giving up? Because this is the thing, it's not just the time, it's not just the money, maybe there's no money involved, maybe it's just time, or maybe there's no time involved, maybe it's just money, which, time's more valuable than money anyway. But, it may not seem like that big of a deal, but even if all you do is get yourself too stressed to do your golden path, How many people are missing out? You don't have the, this kind of gets back to that, that dream I had about the lady who was, doing everybody else's workouts. The end of that dream is that she then goes, an earthquake happens and somebody has something fall on them. And because she's been wearing herself out doing doesn't even need to be done, she doesn't have the strength to help that person out when they're in trouble. And so if, we're spending our energy and our mental health and we're never taking time for self-care, we're never taking time to meditate. And then one other thing that comes up, anyway, if we never do those things, we may not have the energy we need when it counts, when we're actually being called on to do what really matters. And so, pay attention to that opportunity cost. What am I sacrificing, not just in the moment, but what am I sacrificing because I spent my time, my energy, whatever, on something that was only good? Am I sacrificing something best later on because of it? Always be honest with yourself. And then, sorry, one other thing. This idea of, yes, put your oxygen mask on first. Spot on. And then one other thought is this idea of a flow state, which I've been reading deep work, Superman, Rise of... Anyway, there's a bunch of books out there on flow state. But one of the things that comes up is your quality time matters more than even just regular time. But in your quality time, if you could get into a flow state, you could be 500% more productive. So if you think about that, if you could get into a flow state 1 day a week, so most people work 5 days a week, and I know this is kind of simplifying it. It really is. I'm missing some things on this, but you could do an entire week's worth of work in 1 day, get into a flow state. You could accomplish more. So, a lot of us think it's about quantity work. We don't realize that it's about quality work, and sometimes doing less allows us to do more.
Mm-hmm.
And in a big way. This is not some small, tiny thing. You could be the person who works 1 day a week and gets more done in that 1 day than you used to get working 5 days a week.
Yep.
So when you're signing up for something, you're not just signing up for something that day. Are you signing up for, is it, I just need you to, respond to a text in this hour or respond to an email. If it takes you out of a flow state, it didn't just rob you of those 5 minutes. It may have robbed you of 500% productivity because it took you out of that flow state.
Yep.
And by the way, that's not saying we shouldn't ever respond to a request. But if you're the person who finds yourself saying yes too frequently and you know it, maybe it's time to start practicing it because you're cheating yourself and you're cheating the people around you. And that's more important than that no that you said to a request that probably didn't matter that much anyway. And if they're good, they should have more than one person they could go to for that request. It shouldn't destroy their life because you said no.
Yep.
You have just given me some look-ins to what actually I can do to make this not only good for me, but good for other people too. And I just need to develop my delegation skills.
Yes.
If I've
Yes.
And my resource list, because I'm really hot on resource lists. People are resources as well. And even just having a list of names of people who are good at a little aspect or a different aspect. If you've got a list of names and you've got all these jobs to do, some people can do this job, but they couldn't do that job. If you've got a list of resources and you can start to learn to delegate, people love to help. And we are in the empowerment business, and delegating is actually empowering other people. So if we can combine offloading our list, empowering other people by delegation, wouldn't that be cool?
Yes.
So I'm going to practically work on that and write up my resource list today. Thank you, Holly.
And I've got a whole bunch to add to this too, Holly.
I guess I'll go quick. So first of all, I just absolutely love what Fran just said. So many downloads that just came into me when you said that. A couple other things. Are you robbing somebody else who was the right person who was supposed to help of the opportunity to do, and maybe they were better suited to it, they had more time. I believe that anytime we have a need, there is somebody out there who the universe has given the resources to help us. And it may not be the first person we ask. And if you're always jumping in, you actually might be robbing somebody else of that was supposed to be their time to step in. And then the other thing I was just going to say is I love that resources list. because I was talking to my sister too, I believe that we all have an obligation to have more than one person we can turn to. And we all should be happy when somebody can say no to us. My sister was saying to me the other day, she says, I'm going to ask you something. And the only reason I could ask you is because I know you're comfortable saying no if it's not an absolute 100% yes. And so it means the world to know that, hey, if I ask, I can't ask if I think you're going to say yes out of guilt. I know you have healthy boundaries, and I ask you something and you say no. Know that you haven't destroyed me. You've just told me you're not the person on my list, and now I've got to go to the next person on my list for this request. But I still care about you. I know you still care about me, and next time you might be the one that's supposed to be there. So when I'm reaching out, I'm not reaching out to you because you're the person who's supposed to help me. I'm reaching out to find out if you're one of the 10 people I'm supposed to check with, if you're the one that's supposed to help me this time. So, and a true no is the only way you can ever have a true yes.
And it's not what you know, it's who you know. Because if people know people know people, and it might be a couple of times removed, but if you use your resource list, you are really empowering yourself and other people. So, we're about empowering people. It's cool.
And some of the stuff I wanted to add to it is, what is your most valuable resource? What's one thing that nobody can give back to you? Your time. And one of the questions I was going to ask you, are you the only person who can do this function? And yes, the delegating, that was brilliant. That is huge, because you got another question you can put on there is, do you want to be busier or do you want to be wealthier? And wealthier doesn't necessarily mean cash. If doing this job enriches your soul, if it's a elderly friend across the way, that it just a little bit, but that you have the time and the ability to do it, and by going over there and helping them, it gives you that feeling here. Are you busier or are you wealthier? And there are times that there are certain people going out to help them. Yes, it made me busier, but on top of that, the feeling that I got coming home was well more than what they could have even justified paying me. And if they pay me, it's on top of that. And the other part is, you guys may or may not know who John C. Maxwell is. He's written many amazing books, but on top of that all, he was the pastor at a church that I went to in San Diego. And he said that when he interviewed to be the lead pastor of the church, he threw them off guard, because the interview process for them, the what do you call it, the group of people that were interviewing him, took 2 hours. They asked him questions for 2 hours. And when they got done with their questions, he goes, so is that all the questions you have? And they're like, yep. And they're like, yep. And they're thinking they're about ready to go. He goes, good, I've got questions now. And one of the questions he asked them was, what are the things that only I can do in this position? Obviously, I'm the only lead pastor, so I'll be doing the lead pastor stuff. But what else is it that only I can do? And he said when they boiled it down to it, there was only 3 things that he was the only person allowed to do those functions. The rest of it, he was allowed to delegate. And the amount of time that he had freed up from what the other pastors had gone through and burned out from, allowed him to write his books and do all this other stuff, and it set the precedence for the following people, because now that the church understood that he doesn't have to do 9,000 things. He can do 9,000 things, but he only has to do 3 things. Hopefully that helped. We got 5 minis. Any more inputs, insights on any of the stuff that we talked about today? And one thing I was going to put on there in the work smarter, not harder. Yes, that is part of the trade-off, is the additional time and the people that witness your ability to get things done with a smarter approach. Because pretty soon you become the go-to person for solutions. And the busiest people are the ones that are always the ones that are approached. Because the busiest people somehow find a way to slip it into their busy schedule. And the lazy people, for some reason, have no time. In fact, a lot of the lazy people come to the smart people for help, even though they've got 3 times the amount of available time to figure it out, get her done, or approach a few other people before they come to the busiest person. Lenora.
In case anybody is struggling with saying no and delegating, when you do that, notice the thoughts that come up, notice the voices that come up. And if you're not sure what they're saying, just start talking out loud or writing. And even if you repeat the sentence, you're like, if you're not getting anywhere, repeat the sentence. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. Okay. It's not okay for who? And have a conversation. And I'm telling you, the insights that you will get, just keep repeating. And as you keep repeating, you will eventually get down to what is actually happening. Where are you? Who were you with? When did this happen? Where did this start? And you can navigate yourself through to help that part quite literally understand, oh, it's not the end of the world. And I'm not a bad girl. And I'm not going to get in trouble. And I'll still get dessert tonight. I'm telling you, it works.
And a squirrel just ran up screaming. Remember 3 solutions to every problem or event that may occur. And I taught this to my wife when she was city manager, because people would always bring stuff to her because she was the busy get it done person. Anytime somebody brings you a problem that they would like help with, you look at them and go, awesome. So what 3 solutions have you come up with already so that we're not duplicating efforts? What 3 solutions have you already come up with so we're not duplicating efforts? And what it does is it reminds them that they were put in this position. They were hired not just for their body, but because they do have a brain in there that can do something. And it doesn't have to mean that they are given free rein to find the solution and go out and implement it, depending on their position. But what she found very quickly was they were like, at first they were like, oh, wait, what? What? And she would go take a few minutes, come up with some solutions and bring them back to me, please. And they would come back and they would go, well, we came up with this one, and this one. Oh, good. Number 2 is great. Yeah, let's do that. And it took a minute out of her day instead of an hour. And sometimes it'd be like, well, we came up with 1, 2, 3. And she'd be like, those are good. What if we did number 4? Oh, okay. Because it helped her with the thought process. And what she found out was it didn't take long before the whole group started understanding we can talk amongst ourselves, we can figure this out. And if we're not in a position to make the final decision, we can bring 3 solutions to the person that makes those choices, and we get it done.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. I needed to hear that.
Thank you for bringing it up. Yes. And we fit it in right under the wire. Because here we are talking about time, and I want to respect everybody's time. You know that we could go on for about another 12 hours, but time is something that I haven't figured out how to duplicate and give back to you, so I do have to be very respectful of your amazing resource. And thank you all for offering up your time here on this platform. Again, I don't want to, it's not about me. This is us being able to get together and brainstorm and share ideas and information so that hopefully we can take them out into the world and make it a better place. And you guys do. You make my world a better place, just so you know, every time. So thank you. Love you all. Please go out and continue to make the world amazing. And if an asteroid shows up, just know that I love you all so much. I'll see you on the other side. We'll have a big party there. And until then, looking forward to seeing your beautiful faces in 7 more days.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, all.
Love you, Mom.
Appreciate you, TJ. Everyone have a good night. Mark, nice seeing you. Fran, nice seeing you. Lenora, everybody. Holly, you guys are all amazing.
Are we doing the Brady Bunch goodbye? Night, Joe Bob.